there have been a lot of like die-hard comic fans of the Invincible series going, let's temper expectations. Yes, that issue was phenomenal and it was a great issue. It was just a issue though. We're not going to get an entire season of the Invincible War or some shit.
Yeah,
Which I think is good for them people to be out there going, let's
yeah, true.
temper these expectations. There's only so many times Reach can go into a building with a bunch of guys, be the only survivor, before someone goes, how the fuck are you always the only survivor?
Yeah, who is this guy that has rocked up and in the last week has survived like 3 altercations as the only survivor? It's going to start raising questions.
Daredevil.
Well, so, and right, I know we meme a lot and we say this phrase many, many times. Most of the time kind of as a meme, let's be real. But actually, for once, I do think we might be back.
We are, I believe the phrase is so fucking back. Hello and welcome back to Cutscene Convos. This is episode 152 and boy oh boy do we have a busy episode for you this week. Yes. We have character profile on Wave, we have Invincible, Reacher, Daredevil, the Oscars, and as always the Nerd News Network. An absolutely bustling week with so much to discuss. But before all that, Corey, how's your week been, Bo?
My week's been pretty good. What has gone down? Oh, I had tech issues, didn't I, over the weekend? For God. Like, you lot and our friends group all know that, like, my PC's old as fuck.
Your PC's older than West.
Not quite. not quite. The monitors are also basically as old because I got them not long after I built my PC. So, like, we're talking like 10 years.
Yeah.
And a normal monitor probably is pretty good going,
especially with the usage you've put through it as well. If you think of the monitor as having X amount of hours of being a monitor, you've probably surpassed what is expected of a monitor.
On my vertical one, there is like what would be the top pixel line of the monitor, but it's like down the side, is just white permanently. There's like a very thin white line all the way down. But yeah, the monitor just it's been slow. It's been getting worse for like the last 6 months. Like, it takes a while to boot up. And I was like, it's just getting slow. And then it was like the other morning, I've worked out it can take an hour now for it to boot up.
Christ.
That's why I was confused, because usually, like, when I get up, I'll turn my PC on, go down, have breakfast, whatever. And by the time I eventually come back to my room, it's there waiting for me to log in. And I'd come back up and it wasn't on. And I was like, that's not a good sign. I'll go for a shower. I need to go for a shower. Wait for a shower. Came out, still not on. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. So then I was sat here on. The funny thing is, I could log in and then have my vertical monitor was working fine. So I'd go Discord, which was how I was talking to you lot. And then it just, like, I'm scrolling TikTok. And then it just suddenly flashes the Asus logo. And I'm like, wait, it's alive. Like the Frankenstein thing. It lives. Because I genuinely was thinking, I'm going to have to tear myself down to change to just one monitor, which is not fun.
If it survives long enough, when I go up to the 1440p, I can send you my spare monitor, I reckon. Because I'll have no use for it.
Well, we'll see.
If it survives that long.
I will
turn your PC on the day before.
I will keep... If it dies, it dies. Which is...
Now you're just rigging it for everything you can get out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go down to one monitor if I have to, but for now...
When was the last time you were on a one monitor setup?
I actually can't remember. I don't think I've been on one monitor since I have had this PC.
See, this is the thing. Sometimes you see it on like r/battle stations and stuff, and like aesthetic battle stations where they're gorgeous setups, but they just have one ultra wide monitor. And I'm like, I know it's ultra wide. I know that most ultra wides you can set it so it acts as two monitors next to each other. It's not the same.
No, it's not. I don't think I could ever go less. I could never do one monitor, no matter the size. Ideal world, I'd probably have 3. With I have differing opinions now of what I use different ones for, because I like the idea now of like not having those full size second monitors. They're just a
Oh,
smaller
the
one.
smaller ones.
I
Yeah.
also have seen a really cool creative setup where they had like one under the monitor,
They're
and they
becoming
would
very popular.
use it for like at like a 45-degree angle or whatever, and then editors and stuff would use it for just the timelines or
Yeah,
different
I
things.
see a lot of the time that gets used as like a media center, a
Mm.
timeline for editors, or like where you hold your files if you're editing on your main monitor.
Yeah.
But my goal is what I've currently got, which is landscape vertical, and then another one up top here. That's what I want.
I like the idea of one above, but then I'm like, there's gonna come a point where I don't watch, and well, at the moment I watch everything at my desk, but I'm not always gonna watch everything at my desk. It's like I don't really need another one
I
just
just
for
know I'd
watching
get
stuff.
so much use out of it.
I
It's
just end up
diabolical.
putting
Yeah.
some like, I don't know, put like Tokyo Drift on repeat or something, just looping all day. Bit of
But that's
creative.
funny. There's vibes to it.
Yeah, but if I'm gonna do that, I'm getting a CRT TV in the back corner
Do it
just to play it.
properly, yeah.
Yeah.
If
But
you're
yeah,
gonna do it for an aesthetic, do it for the best one.
other than tech issues, my week's been pretty chill, really. How's your
Fair
week
enough.
been?
Yeah, not too bad. There's been some bits and bobs going on, but not too bad. Got a busy weekend coming up. We've got concert on Friday. We're going to see Teddy Swims, which will be fun. Then on Saturday we're at the Simon and Charity match, all the family, which has
Mhm.
kind of unofficially become a tradition now. We've done it like 3 years in a row,
That's
which is
cool.
a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
And then Sunday it will be doing all the stuff I should have been doing on Friday evening and Saturday.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, bit busy week. It'll be another busy week next week, and probably the week after that as well. That's just life at the minute. But other than that, not too bad. I got in my binge rewatch of all the old Netflix shows in preparation for Daredevil.
Oh,
I got to the last episode of the last season of the last show.
last night.
I needed one more hour
Oh,
to have been able to finish the run.
damn.
Fortunately, it was just the last episode of Jessica Jones, which doesn't matter for this season of Daredevil Born Again.
No,
But
still.
that's how close I got
That
to rewatching
Do
everything.
you know what's funny? That's what happened to me with The Boys, wasn't it? I had like
Yeah.
I had like 2 episodes left or something to watch before we did the recap. I was so close.
But yeah, so let's get into it. We've got a lot to discuss.
Yes,
We
we
probably shouldn't
have.
waste any more time than we already have. Starting off with our character profile, this week our character
Mhm.
profile is on Wave, who you will recognise from Your Friendly Neighbourhood Spider-Man. So let's get into it.
Mhm.
Pearl Pangan, also known as Wave, first appeared in War of the Realms New Agents of Atlas #1 in May 2019. This makes her widely regarded as Marvel's first Filipino superhero. Pearl grew up in the Philippines, more specifically on Mactan Island in Cebu. With easy access to the beach, Pearl quickly developed a love and affinity for the water. This developed into her becoming an incredibly gifted and powerful swimmer, with many considering her capable of even making it all the way to the Olympics. However, as it does for most people, life gets in the way, and she was approached by Alontech. Alontech wanted to use her expertise to help them in scientific experiments. Unbeknownst to her, Alontech was an evil corporation using their money and influence in a multitude of unlawful ways. This behaviour caught the attention of superhero group the Triumph Division. During the Triumph Division's attack on Alontech, Pearl was caught in a crossfire, leaving her drenched in water and exposed to a mysterious energy. This resulted in Pearl developing the power to control water. Once she realised that Triumph Division were the good guys, she left Alontech and instantly joined them as their newest member. After some training and learning to control her powers, she became the superhero Wave. It was a while later, when Malekith and his forces attacked Earth, that Wave went beyond her jurisdiction into the North Pacific Ocean. It was here she met Aero, and thus began her adventures with the new agents of Atlas, including various fellow heroes like Aero, Shang-Chi, Swordmaster, Luna Snow, and others. So there we have it. That is Wave from the comics. Again, pretty new character.
Yeah.
But you can already see the kind of inspiration from the way she's appeared in the comics to how she's coming across in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It seems interesting to change her as much as they had for such a new character.
Yeah.
She's 6 years old as a character. You'd think they'd kind of be like, okay, let's stick with what she actually knows. But maybe they're of the other opinion of, we're going to make her a lot bigger than she was so we can have a little bit more fun with it. But we know she's captain of the swim team at the school Peter attends, and that's a big part of who she is. So maybe she's not got her powers yet. Maybe something that
another Doc Ock
Oscorp do, or Doc Ock causes her to get her powers. So yeah, that is Wave. And again, a couple of interesting names there to note out for those who've been playing Marvel Rivals. Obviously, you got Luna Snow, and Swordmaster is the current Iron Fist in the game.
Got you. Yeah.
Titles are weird in Marvel. So yeah, Swordmaster was created as a China-only comic book character.
Right.
Did incredibly well over there. So then they decided to branch him out, and he became the new Iron Fist, replacing Danny Rand.
Got you.
If I'm correct, which I think I am. So yeah, that is Wave. Boom.
Very cool.
Right, next up, Invincible.
Yes. The first of many shows this week.
More really good episode.
Yeah, really good episode, and more moral dilemmas once again. I'm sensing a theme.
Yeah, this was a fun one because Jenna was watching this one with me, and she doesn't normally watch Invincible. And there was obviously the shocking moment where Powerplex accidentally kills his wife and child. When he was losing it just before that, and you get like that kind of a little bit of foreshadowing that he might be about to hurt them.
Yeah.
General's like, oh, surely he won't though, right? I'm like, this ain't the kind of show that won't kill the kid.
Yeah, you do not know what show you are dealing with.
Yeah, this is definitely the kind of show that will kill the kid. And they did kill the kid. I didn't expect them to show us. I know it's animation. I didn't expect them to show us a charred child corpse.
I was like, as you knew this build-up was happening of him being like losing control of his anger and frustration, I was like, uh-oh. The wife's gonna die. But then I was like, it also kind of feels like the wife's kind of okay to die to make a point here as well. Like, she also seemed somewhat like...
Oh, she was absolutely in with his plan. I don't think she expected it to end in her death, but she agreed with him that Invincible should pay for what he did.
Yeah. I was thinking, when they first showed, like, the charred pillar, I was gonna be like, oh, he's completely just, like, fried them. They're gone. Like, there was just going to be, like, nothing left of them.
Pile of ash.
Yeah, then we got the full-on...
I was genuinely surprised they were brave enough to animate a dead child. That's brave. Is brave the right word? Fuck it, we'll go with brave.
No, I think brave is the right word to go, like...
It was a really interesting story. I enjoyed it a lot. I really enjoyed the kind of acknowledgement, foresight from the other characters up until the end that Mark shouldn't be the person to interact with him.
Yes.
He was like, yeah, the guy's calling me out. I'm not working tonight. Someone else will deal with it.
Yeah.
Then at the ceremony, Eve was like, you are just going to make this worse right now. I will deal with him. And that is a lot of the time in just superhero media, not a thought that gets thrown about. Because a lot of the time, superheroes do have, for want of a better word, massive fucking egos. So he called me out by name. He made this personal. Whereas this shows like a bit more of professionalism from the superheroes. It's like no, Mr. Supervillain, you don't get to decide who you're talking to.
Yeah, it
I'm the
also
hero. I'm going to deal with you.
like it also plays into the idea that there are multiple superheroes in this world, and it's not like, say this was like DC and he's like they're calling out Superman, but he's in Gotham. You just expect, oh, Batman's not going to show up to this. And
Exactly.
oh well, Batman's just there like, no, I'll just wait till Superman rocks up. Like, oh, he's destroying something. No, that's not my problem. Like the idea that
Exactly.
the other heroes would deal with this quickly as well, and them, like you said, them going, no, you're not. You're just going to make it worse. It's
Absolutely
like,
would, because this guy's whole thing was, right, I want to fight this dude, I want to
yeah,
expose him. It's like, okay, so just by giving him what he wants, it's just going to escalate, because he's trying to make it clear he doesn't want to hurt anyone, which was like his big
yeah,
thing. I don't want to hurt anyone, I just want Invincible. So if you don't give him Invincible, it's much easier to try and just discharge the situation.
yeah.
Eve kicked ass as well. The speed with which she realised pummeling this guy would just make him more
Well,
dangerous. Brilliant work from Eve. My go.
I loved the bit as well though where she got like the first like knockback, and Mark's like, oh shit, and he goes to go in, and his mum's like, give her some more credit than that. Like,
Yeah, again, proper writing of how humans behave, because there is, and don't get me wrong, I get part of it is because a lot of the time in like comic book relationships, the male is the superhero, so if the woman's in danger, he's like, oh, I must save you. But that does spill over into relationships where both characters are heroes. So I mean, we kind of saw it in Reacher, which we'll get onto later. But I do love Debbie as a non-powered woman just going, Eve can handle herself. You are just going to make it worse. Will you sit the fuck down and let her do what she does? She is fine.
it's also like I get Mark, like you say, Mark's response is obviously he knows he is the strongest person on earth. So it's like anyone that gets knocked back is like, oh shit, this is someone strong. It needs to be my job to deal with them. And then his mum being like, knowing that this isn't a like Viltrumite level threat. She knows what those are because she's been around them for a while now. And being like, just chill. Like, this isn't for you. I also love the funny point, like when they go into that event, the memorial thing, and they're like, oh no, we're taking the car, and he's like, oh thank god, the boyfriend, and then he gets in the car and he's being flown. And he's just like, what is wrong? What is my life? Like, how is no one gonna notice that? Like,
I assume it's just because they're like up high enough is the logic.
I just
like,
thought,
you've got glasses, how good is your eyesight? Even if you did see a car flying in the sky, are you going to see who's carrying it?
No. I definitely.
And also,
yeah,
in a world where
yeah,
people can fly,
yeah, I suppose
in a world where people can
that's
fly,
true.
you're just going to look and go, it's one of the ones who can fly and carry a car. That's all of them.
That is true.
I did enjoy the brotherly banter. Just like, Oliver, get in the car before your makeup runs off, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. I will say, going back to Power Plays as a character, I thought I totally get where his character came from. Like that anger of being like, but this guy did kill lots of people even though he was saving the world. Does that really get him off for murder? And it's this constant question we've been getting of like, does the good outweigh the bad?
Do the ends justify the means? It's my favourite question that this kind of media always portrays. And my favourite part about Powerplex is all of this situation was avoidable if they did what he wanted in the first place of doing an investigation.
Yeah.
Because that's all initially he wanted. He just wanted him to be forced to sit down and answer some hard questions about what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
Now, granted, he might not have been satisfied when like an investigation was done and Mark actually reduced the amount of lives that would have been lost that day, blah, 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 whatever. Because we do know the facts of the situation, having seen it previously. We know that Mark, despite not saving as much as he would have liked to have done, with how underpowered he was at the time compared to Omni-Man, and the fact that he was reeling from the revelation his dad was fucking evil, he did the best he could.
Yeah.
So after them questions were answered, you would have had a decent chance of him probably still being upset that not enough was done. But at least then, he doesn't have that holier than thou ground to stand on. you're just letting him get away with it. It's like, no, we questioned him. We looked at the evidence. He, although it doesn't feel like it, without him, it would have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
And it would have been.
Yeah. It is that
But
of
yeah,
like
his core thing of where's the accountability is absolutely valid. And then when we see that he works at the Pentagon,
yeah.
and he hears them going, yeah, who else gets to fly in and destroy the Pentagon and just walk
Yeah.
away scot-free? That is a very valid thing to be pissy about.
Yeah, see, that was when they said that, I was like, hang on a second, I didn't even think about it from the point of view of like, we get it from Cecil, like what he expects. Like, we're kind of like, yeah, Cecil, you're a bit of a dick. So it's like, you've got all this tech, like, it was never going to be, if Mark wanted to kill you, he would have killed you. There was no actual danger in that moment. But then you don't think about it from like just the average worker, like, oh, I clocked into work today, and you just walk into the corridor and you're just like, boom, and you're just like, okay, just gonna back out of here because what the fuck was? And we're like, they just let him walk out of here, like,
yeah. And you've got to remember, most of these like GDA scientists, they don't know that Mark is, for the most part, a very chill dude. Although it doesn't seem like it at times. He is. He doesn't want to hurt people. He actively avoids it at all costs. He pulls his punches. He takes more hits than he should to try and make sure he's not hurting people. Yeah. They should know that they're safe, but they don't know they're safe because all they see is this being that the dad of tried to destroy the world, and he can just fly through the roof of the Pentagon whenever he wants, and apparently there's nothing we can do to stop him.
Yeah, that's all they see is like, we can't control this guy. And is that not what happened to his dad? Like, that's all people are going to start to think.
Yeah.
But yeah, once again, like the moral questions, they're really like testing everyone on what they think this season. I'm very excited, like I'm sure many people are that have read the comics, from the teaser at the end of this episode.
Yes.
We finally got to find out who's been watching him.
So it was fully revealed that it's Angstrom, and he's got his little army of variant marks.
Yeah.
So the big thing to remember, while I haven't read the comics yet because I decided I was going to watch the show, but that resolve is getting weaker by the day. I've got to be honest. Invincible War is one issue of the comic run.
Okay.
So it's not like an arc that we should expect to last 4 or 5 episodes.
Probably going to be.
It should be a 1 episode, one and done. Doesn't mean it's not going to be a great episode, but there have been a lot of like diehard comics fans of the Invincible series going, let's temper expectations. Yes, that issue was phenomenal and it was a great issue. It was just a issue, though. We're not going to get an entire season of the Invincible War or some shit.
Yeah,
which I think is good for them people to be out there going, let's temper these expectations. Like, kind of like the drama we had with Hero Gasm. Do you remember? With the boys. Yeah. And they were like, oh, there's going to be the... And I was like, and I ended up coming in, I was like, I felt it was a bit underwhelming. I didn't think it was as crazy as we were told it was going to be. Yeah.
I will say, like, from my perspective, I kind of just was like, I know we only have 2 episodes left, so I was like, okay, maybe this is how they're going to arc out the end of this season. So at most, I'm expecting 2 episodes. If it's just one massive, long animated fight sequence, essentially, like, I'm all for that. Like, that's totally fine. I am already kind of wasn't expecting this to be a long thing. Kind of because we know the longer arc story is the whole Viltrumites slowly coming and trying to take over Earth. I will say, after that, like, end clip, and like it was like the day after the episode or something, I saw that like a thing came out of Stephen Ewan has been cast as 18 Invincibles in the Invincibles season 3.
I did enjoy that announcement of Stephen Ewan being cast in 18 new roles in Invincible. So the other thing that I thought was quite interesting, and it was a large talking point about Invincible. So people have taken the comic page of where like Angstrom Levy is revealed to be a bit like disfigured and fucked up and commanding the army. And in the comic, his face is a lot more disfigured and gross.
Yeah.
So everyone was like, and this is why I can never take the Invincible show seriously. And I mean, you know, stuff like that. I for the most part, I just let everyone water off a duck's back, because you're not going to change these people's opinions, right?
Yeah.
But I did see someone in response make a very interesting point that I hadn't considered before. And it went something like this. People will claim to be comic book fans, but in the end, they just want comic books to be treated like a storyboard for another version of the media. And as a result of that, they're not respecting comic books as a medium. And I'd never considered it that way before, but fuck me, if that isn't an interesting opinion. Like, obviously, people are free to disagree or agree with that. I think there is some truth to it. I think taking a panel of a comic book which is deliberately designed to be overdrawn, not in a bad way, it's just to give as much visceral detail as possible, and going, why didn't the show do that, is an unrealistic expectation, because if they do that for one scene, they have to do it for all of the scenes. Otherwise, you're going to have people going, but that's not consistent. He looks different scene to scene. That makes no sense. So in a way, in animated media, you do have to give up a little bit sometimes to make it more consistent, because you can't draw at that same high ridiculous level for every single frame, because that's not feasible.
Well, yeah, and you've also got to look at it from the perspective of a comic has one frame to portray all the detail it needs for a specific moment in that story, whereas animation could have 24 frames a second, and have like a minute worth of that to do the same exact moment in the comic book panel. So it's like they don't need all that detail in one frame, because they've got so many more frames to animate with and sell other details that are happening.
Just like we discussed in the past, going from live action to animation gives you access to things that but you also lose certain things, like the actors' facial acting. Going from animation to comic books, you gain some things and you lose some things. They are all valid mediums in their own right, and it shouldn't be a case of pointing at them and going, look, it's not as good as that, or that's not as good as that, or whatever, because at that point you are disrespecting one of the two mediums by saying you're not enough like the other one. But I'd never considered it that way before, and I thought that was quite a interesting thought. But overall, I thought the episode was really good. One of the best title card usage we've seen so far.
Yeah, it was a creative one. Do you know what's funny? In between last week and this week's episode, have you seen the TikTok filter that got made?
I have.
Of the Invincible, like any word that you say in, like it cuts it. That has then made some hilarious TikToks that I've seen of people that not necessarily have watched the show but saw the trend and made stuff. There was someone trying to tell a story and they're like, oh, I would have done this inside, but every time they kept trying to say inside, it would just cut and it would like break their brain, because they're like, why does it keep doing this? And it took them like 4 attempts to realize, oh, it's when I'm saying in. But yeah, they've been so creative with these title cards. And obviously now we know exactly that these are linked up to match these Invincible versions. It makes me every season, like I'm now going to be intrigued next season what the kind of gag is with it.
It was very cool. It's more like, although we called last week a bit of the filler episode, it's kind of doing the same thing last week did, where it goes, remember this in season 1?
Yeah.
This is what the repercussion of that was. So last week you did it on a small scale. You remember what you did when you helped out that criminal dude, and then you got your ass beat by Battle Beast, and then your dad had to save you?
Yeah.
This is the repercussion of that. And then last time out it was, remember last time when you killed a bunch of people, your dad? This is the repercussion of that.
Yeah.
I know some people went back and looked at some of the season 1 of the fight scenes of like the Battle of Chicago versus what we were shown in this episode.
Yeah.
And some of it was changed slightly because we were seeing it from Powerplex's point of view.
Yeah.
So it made Mark look a lot more destructive and a lot more evil than he did in the actual episode, which I think is really good storytelling. Instead of just reusing footage and saving yourself the time, they're like, no.
Yeah.
We saw Mark's point of view, how that happened the first time around. This is what the victims of that saw.
Yeah. I think that's smart.
Yes, it was a really good arc, very poignant, very powerful. I
I'm
look forward to seeing what more we've got out of this season.
Yeah, I mean, we've got what, 2 episodes left. Obviously, we know this next
Yes.
one's most likely going to just be a big old brawl, um,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to be intriguing to see. Part of me was like, oh, I wonder if Alan and Omni-Man rock up, but I don't think they show up yet. I think it's still too early, which then means
Yeah.
how is Mark going to fight this many alternate Marks?
I
Is
think we
this
need
when
to
Oliver
remember,
oversteps?
maybe. I think we need to remember as well the layman of the Invincible universe
Hmm.
is not gonna know, believe, understand that the multiverse exists.
True.
He's gonna have a hell of a time explaining that the Invincibles everyone saw doing horrible things weren't him.
Well, you say
This is
that,
gonna damage his
but
reputation.
he changed the color of his suit and people thought he was a new superhero.
You know, but they still thought he was connected to Invincible because they thought he was
Well, yeah.
Invincible.
Yeah, but like if he goes, maybe this is why he has to go back to his original colors. Maybe there's like,
Maybe.
oh, people think all that was somewhat linked with Invincible.
But if you just
I get what you
imagine,
mean.
if you imagine for a minute, you're in this world. You've just seen on the news this dude has gone nuts trying to kill Invincible because of what happened in Chicago, and he doesn't think it was all up to code.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough for a discussion to be having on the internet. And then you see a dude in Invincible's costume, but in Omni-Man's colours, flying about, killing people. Your brain isn't going to go, oh, I bet it's a double ganger. Your brain's going to go, oh shit, he's gone off the deep end.
Well, considering like some of them look very similar, some of them obviously look very different. But yeah, I get what you mean. There's going to be an issue there. It also is going to make it. I wonder if like you're going to get. We know Guardians of the Globe and the Rex and all them lot.
Yeah, Rex and Co.
They're going to have trouble being like, wait, which one's our Mark?
Yeah.
Am I fighting the right one?
Especially because you've got to remember, these are still Viltrumites, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they're Mark, but they're so it's not like it's an easy fight,
No.
even if everyone teams up on one dude. So
This is what I mean.
I will not be surprised if there is like a moment where Rex and Co manage to just survive one.
Yeah.
And then our Mark arrives to help, and they're like, "Who the fuck are you? I will mess you up, bro."
Yeah, Rex is like, "Oh no, here we go again. I'm gonna die."
Yeah, because they're gonna any Mark they see at the beginning.
Yeah,
they're going to assume it's their Mark. Even if Mohawk Mark turns up, they're just going to be like, new haircut, dude? It's a bit weird.
I guarantee there's going to be some joke from Rex meeting the first one and being like, oh, you've changed your hair or something. And then it's just punched to the face.
I've got to be honest, I kind of want the Omni Mark to be the one that meets Rex, just so Rex can make a joke about how, dude, that's kind of cancelable to wear Omni-Man's colours, or some reference to be like,
the one with the mustache
kind of
is like, I maybe wouldn't grow the mustache like that.
Yeah, but you just know Rex is going to make a shitty joke about whatever one he bumps into. He's like, I don't like the new look, and then get fucked up. But yeah, and that's going to be the problem. He's going to arrive to help someone after they've survived a previous Mark and just be like, what the who are you, motherfucker?
You might also end up getting Cecil thinks, oh, for fuck's sake, Mark's back again to just have a tantrum, but it's actually one of these other Marks, and he then realizes, oh shit, this is what happens when he isn't somewhat on our side.
And even if it doesn't directly affect his relationships, even if once it's dealt with, they're like, okay, cool, that's fine. Any time Mark arrives now, all these people are essentially going to have a PTSD response of, is that our Mark?
If he ever changes his hair slightly or something, they're going to be like,
he's going to have to send out an email blast to everyone going, by the way, I've got different colour socks on today. Yeah. It's not a big deal.
I had to get
it's definitely going to have a lasting impact, I think. I think most people will survive it. There'll probably be a death. But there is definitely going to be a lasting impact of everyone going, holy fuck, I thought it was you, and now I never know if it's you ever again. Because not knowing it's not you is a death sentence when dealing with an evil version of you.
Yeah.
And it's also going to fuck with Mark's entire idea when we look at like episode 3 or whatever it was, when he had to go and kill Immortal. And they had that conversation of, but that wasn't you.
Now he's got to kill himself.
Dealing with alternate versions of himself who were evil is going to leave him going, right, but what was so different about them that made them evil, and does that exist within me as well? Am I the exception rather than the rule? In which case, how long am I going to be the exception for?
Yeah. It's going to be because, and then you've also got Oliver's mixed into that.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna end up having to need to let him just.
He's gonna have to help. There's no way to survive it without him.
It's gonna have to be no rules. We gotta survive this
Get it
sort
done.
of situation.
Yeah, get it done.
How does Oliver react after the fact of he's now killed, or was like maybe told now, oh, it's okay to kill these people, but not like, yeah, that's gonna add another level of complication,
complexity. Yeah, for
so
sure.
I feel like these last two episodes are gonna get real messy for Mark.
Yeah, there's going to be an emotional weight to the end of this season finale. And to be fair, every season's finished with a bit of an emotional heft.
It has.
But I feel like this could be just another step of holy fuck. I don't know. I think there's going to be an element of I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, going to be completely fair. But I know a lot of people have been joking. Like they said at the beginning of the season, Mark's 138% stronger, but I feel like he's been getting his ass kicked all season. Seeing Mark like let loose against some Viltrumites could be kind of fucking epic.
Yeah, but I don't know if 100 and whatever percent better is going to be enough for 10 versions of him or something, whatever it was.
Yeah, it's not going to be ideal, that's for sure.
Yeah. Reacher. I'm enjoying the weekly episodes. Just one a week.
We will convert him. It's better.
I like the multiple episode drop into weekly episodes. It is nice.
I think I can concede a 2-episode premiere might be peak, just because it means you can get deeper into the story and like know that you want to invest more time in it a little bit quicker. I do agree with that slightly, but after that, weekly releases should be law and make seasons a little bit longer.
Yeah, another good episode from Reacher.
Yes,
a bit of a flashback episode.
Yeah, we found out the history, and very quickly, me and Jenna kind of pieced together. I mean, it wasn't like a massive secret. We all kind of knew where it would end up going, but it was still the journey. But I was like, oh, this girl is very likable, Dominique. She's very likable. She's very Reacher. Reacher knows she can be phenomenal. She wasn't in any of the flashbacks last season. She's not his friend still. We know he wanted to kill someone for whatever happened.
The big thing is, like, I straight away like clicked because it was like he's just on his own in an office. There's no mention of the 1/10th, and then he's like, his superior was just like, oh, maybe you should we should actually get you a full-on team at some point, have your own little like squad of. I'm like, oh, this is pre 1/10th. This was someone that we didn't know about. We also know something went wrong from how he's been talking.
And we know he thought he killed this dude.
Yeah. So like we knew where the end was going to be, but yeah, the story along the way, it's such a shame because it was such a interesting insight into some more of this character and like how he is as a person. We enjoyed the 1/10 flashbacks last season, like getting to learn more about Reacher. So like seeing this again with like his first sort of protege was really cool to see. But yeah, unfortunately, a sad end to the flashback.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for me for that flashback was by seeing how much he invested in her and how much he believed in her, and that essentially got her killed. I think that is what kind of soured him a little bit. And kind of, he already was a little bit distant from people. Then he let her in, she died. That reinforces that wherever I go, trouble follows, people get hurt. Nope, not going to do it. Don't want anyone involved.
Yeah, I think that caused a shift because we saw with the 1/10th, he was a bit disconnected from them. He made sure to keep himself as like, no, I'm the leader. Like, I don't want to be too close to you lot. Like, yes, we had, but I keep myself distant. We know that from like the present day where he just doesn't talk to any of them and hasn't kept in contact. I think you're right. Like that's come after this because of he did make a connection with like his first ever team member, and then it's like it got it ended up with her dying, and he's gonna feel some guilt for that, even though everything he did was was so much the right way of handling it. Like
Yeah,
he
he
wanted
believed in her. He knew she could handle it.
he knew the system of how people are going to look at this, so he was doing everything in his power to make sure she got all the credit for this, and
Yeah,
was like
he.
really looking out for her in that sense.
It was when she was like, "Do you want to go get a beer and we'll finish this up?" And he's like, "You are a young black woman in the army. That is not the kind of imaginary cloud you need hanging over you." And it comes
Mm-hmm.
across quite harsh. You're like, "You can go for a beer." So he's like, "So we'll have a beer here and do it instead because I
Yeah.
like you. I would go for a beer with you, but I'm not going to risk fucking up your career because you could be such a good asset. Let's do this the right, nice, easy way so there's no problems."
Yeah, he understands the system of the army and what people will do to try and get their own gain by like pushing people down, and he knows how good he is, that and this is the first person he's had under him, people are going to try and find ways to pull that apart.
Yeah, and just like you said, he made such an effort of like, you go alone because I'm what the army wants to be their poster boy. I am the big,
Yeah.
tall, all American muscle man. If they can find any way to give me this victory, they will.
Mm.
Don't let them take the victory from you. And then we got the fucking the foreshadowing when earlier in the episode your man tried to help her and almost got himself hurt for it.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Don't ever, no matter how much you care for her, turn your back to try and help her because that'll get you both killed."
Mm.
And it did.
Yeah, unfortunately. That little foreshadowing was such when you see him later and he's and like Reach is like, you fucking turned your back. Like that's when it's like, oh, that okay. We should have known this was coming. Like I I feel like we fully understand now why Reacher fucking hates Quinn.
Yeah. The
Um
interesting thing I kind of I picked up on something earlier on in the episode. I can't remember what now because I watched it when it came out.
mm,
Where I was like, "Oh, I wonder if she's like in on it." So
yeah,
then later on in the episode, when Quinn tries to like go, she was in on it, she was part
yeah,
of it. I was like, hmm. And then Reacher pulls something that I wouldn't even think of, which is why I love the writing so much. Because I can't remember how, but they planted the seed that she might be in on it, in my brain anyway.
yeah.
And then they tried to pay it off later. And I'm like, I thought that maybe she's in on it. Maybe that's why he's even more pissed off because he didn't see it. And then he just goes,
Mm-hmm,
"What was her first name? You don't make a deal with someone whose name you don't know," which is
mm-hmm.
completely valid.
Yeah. It was I wonder if the thing that like put you on that was the whole when they were scouting out the drop and they missed it under their noses. It's like that was like the only time she made a mistake in like not intentionally,
No, I
but
think it was during the interview something she said. I can't remember
okay.
what.
But yeah,
Um,
that whole
but there was a moment I was like, hmm,
him trying to twist it, and I'm like, I was sat there like, nah, she
surely
surely,
not.
and surely Reacher doesn't believe this. And then when he pulled out that question of like, what's the name then, and Quinn couldn't answer it, it was like, you fucked yourself there, mate. Yeah, you've really you dug yourself in a deeper hole by trying to
Uh-huh.
trying to lie his way out of that situation, and Reacher being smart enough to be like, I'm gonna make that in my head. I'm gonna double check that that isn't the case, and I know how to. And he catches him in the lie straight away. It's like, oh, now you've just cemented. I, part of me, I'm like, how did he shoot him? I'm like, because they're in the barn, and I'm like, at what point does he? Because I'm thinking he's just gonna shoot him there and then. I'm like, surely he'd know if he does it here. Like, how does he end up in a river and he doesn't know that he's dead? Or like doesn't, and it's like, but then when he walks him all the way to the cliff edge, I'm like, oh, now I see how this went down.
Other like police shows never deal with, but Reach does very well. Reacher is aware that this man, he has him under arrest essentially. He has no weapon. He's in control of the situation. If he just shoots him, that's an execution. He's committed murder.
Yep.
And he's going to kill this guy. He's decided that's what he's doing.
Well, even his superior knows that's what's about to happen.
Yeah. So he's like, so I can't leave it in a situation where everyone's going to do the forensic analysis and go, this guy didn't have a weapon. This guy didn't try and fire a shot.
He's good
This
enough
guy
at his
just
job.
got fucking executed. So he's like, I'm going to make sure there's no body, because if there's no body, there's no crime. The guy got away. I don't know where he is. And to be fair, that was true. He didn't know where he was. He went in the water. But what this episode showed a lot more of, which I've picked up on before, but I've never really thought too much about. Reacher gets portrayed as very unsociable, in the sense of like he doesn't understand what's happening. He's like very just like almost robotic. But it's kind of the other way. He's not good in social interactions, but he understands them perfectly. Down to the like, no, we can't go for a drink together. That would look weird. You like her, which is fine. Don't be an idiot and get yourself killed because you like her, though. And the understanding that by killing What's-His-Face's second and making himself the hero, he can become What's-His-Face's second and stuff like that. He doesn't enjoy the social interactions, but he knows how to read them, understand them, and manipulate them to benefit
This comes back
him.
to him being like his intelligence that we constantly get shown in different ways. Like he has is very intelligent on social social engineering and how it how things will happen and interact, and that's just all part of him being, and he knows that well enough when he's working out cases that he just also understands it in general. He just partly, I think, also with this story of his history of like, now he just cuts himself off from that stuff. And also he's always like said, danger always follows me. So that's probably also part of it of like, I don't let anyone get close to me because danger is probably going to find me and I don't want it to overflow into their place or whatever.
Absolutely. The other bit I was
going to say, I was right about the FBI woman being guilty or feeling guilty.
Yeah.
Like that whole reveal of her then saying, actually, I kind of forced her into this. I lied to her and said that it would help her sentence or whatever. And like, I was like, this explains exactly what I was saying the other week, where I was like, I think she's just feeling guilty for getting this girl involved, which is why she's overlooking everything. And now that it's a case of like, this girl really didn't need to be here, and she played it off to her that it'll help. Like, she kind of forced her into this situation.
Well, she lied to her. She told her, if you don't do this, you're going to go to prison, when actually that wasn't the case.
It's like, oh, no wonder you're feeling so guilty about the situation she's now in, and you're just like happy to just be overlooking everything.
It was a proper reminder, no matter how much I kind of like the character, all cops are bastards.
Although she was not happy about the whole safe house, and I loved that Reacher was just like, yeah, it's not my problem. You're in charge there. I'm sure you'll be able to sort it out.
just get it sorted, you know, who cares? I really enjoyed the boxing lesson with the son.
Oh, yes. I get
the talking down to him, but in such a not rude way almost. Like, it was very jovial. Like, I'm talking shit to you, but it's because I like you and respect you enough to be honest with you.
I took it as like Reacher's actually treating him like an adult.
Yeah.
And like, I'm gonna banter with you like I would any adult that was in my squad on the army, sort of attitude of like, I know you're a good kid and you do need some toughening up a bit for this situation that your life is, but I'm gonna banter you and take the piss out of you a little bit to get you there. It also leans into I at the end of this, with the whole blowout of what we imagine will be, let's be real, Quinn's probably going to die again.
He'd fucking better. After what he did to Dominique, I want him to die, and I want it to be more painful this time.
There's obviously all of that situation is going to get blown up essentially, and there's going to be the fallout of, I reckon, Reacher make sure that the staff ladies are kind of excused from the situation, and I think he's going to make sure the son kind of gets off excused. I think he's going to look out for those that clearly are just stuck in this situation, not that they necessarily wanted to be in this situation. Because like we've said, he has got that, he does care about some people and will make an
He
effort.
cares about innocent people being
Yeah.
okay. He's got a very strict moral compass on that regard. I did enjoy the if you're gonna be in a fight, you know you can't avoid it. Make sure you throw the first punch. And he's like, isn't that kind of like dishonest? And he's like, I think we can let you off. Just like looking like that. He's like, you are never going to be the bigger guy in the fight, so you do not have to fight fair.
Yeah, it's like, well, what if I am the bigger guy? And he's like, you won't be. Like, I've been in enough fights. Like, I know. Also, in my head, I'm like, why are you bothered about it being dishonest, mate, if you're getting jumped by 3 guys? Like, the honesty's out the window.
I think that's like showing off like the character of the person, though, isn't it? It's like this kid just doesn't want to get bullied, but he's not like a bad kid who wants to hurt people, which I think is why Reach is willing to teach him. Because he's like, I could teach you to murder a man, and you're not going to do it unless you're in absolute danger, so I don't mind teaching you. Whereas if the kid was like, spotted this big guy and was like, hey, I need you to teach me to fight, Reach would have been like, why do you want to learn?
Yeah. I'm interested to see how this goes though now, because he's number 2. Obviously, one, Paulie doesn't like him. How's that little interaction going to go between them of like Paulie finding out that Reach is now in number 2? I don't think he's going to trust him. Whether that's just by his own kind of dumbness of ego, doesn't like Reacher, so he's going to challenge him, or if he doesn't really put 2 and 2 together and it only at the like later on. Because here's the thing: as soon as Quinn and Reacher see each other, everything
game over.
Yeah, it's it all goes up, like blows up, because unless they play it off as Quinn has no memory because he got shot in the head or something, but we already know from the police report that like the psychiatrist felt like he was hiding what he remembered. So as soon as he sees him, it's like either they both recognize each other but don't really say anything, or it all just goes south very quickly.
Do you know what I did like about this episode for that reason, though?
Go on.
It established why his cover hadn't already been blown. Because we know that Quinn now has Reacher's name, in the sense of we know that Quinn's been told, oh, this is our new guy, Reacher, he's going to be my new number 2. Naturally, the question to that might be, well, how comes Quinn didn't remember the name? But in the flashback in this episode, Reacher goes, he's torturing her to get the name of her supervisor so that he knows who else he needs to kill. She'll never give me up. He doesn't know that the supervisor of the military police was Jack Reacher.
My only counter to that is when he turned up to the barn, he was obviously in his military and it'd have his name on it, whether he read it in that moment.
We're not explicitly told he did or didn't, so there's enough there to go. He doesn't know his name.
There is, and then also if he does remember it, you could be like, well, he saw his name in that moment and it comes back to him. It could also be one of those things where, like, in that moment, it didn't lodge itself in his memory well enough that the name hasn't jogged the memory, but if he sees the face and then obviously has the name, then it's like, oh, wait, and it all just comes back, sort of thing.
I am looking forward to the moment they come face to face, and there's that moment of, because you're right, they might play it up to he doesn't remember him, so they might be like, we might get like a 10-minute sequence of Reacher trying to avoid him at like the birthday party, so that he doesn't expose himself, and then he bumps into him and he's like, oh, you must be the new guy, and walks past him and he's like, holy shit, he doesn't remember me, let's go.
It's going to be that, or like you say, it's going to be avoiding the party, and like Paulie's going to be like, why the fuck are you hiding? Like, why are you seeming so on edge and hiding, and like call him out that way? Also, I've had a thought. We know that it's Reacher. There's going to be a massive gunfight at some point. We were shown that LMG for a reason in the guardhouse.
Oh, absolutely. That is traditional foreshadowing.
I also don't think Paulie is the one that gets to shoot it. I think
probably
something happens in the guardhouse, or Reacher ends up in the guardhouse. He sees it and goes, "Huh, that's going to be useful. I'm going to take that. And then at some point, Reacher's going to be walking with an LMG shooting it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to get our Rambo kind
Yes.
of moment for sure.
Something I do think might also cause an issue. I think the young FBI lad's going to fuck up with the person they've got detained.
Absolutely.
The detainee guy is clearly trying to make some he's wearing him down. And then
he's going for a reverse Stockholm.
Yeah, and again the kid came out and said, what's the deal with cigarettes? So there's gonna come a point where the kid's on his own for like the 5th time, and this guy's pestering him for cigarettes that he just gives in. And something's gonna go wrong then. Not to mention the episode ended with them tracking the laptop to it ended with the 3 hired mercenaries going into and potentially going to catch the FBI's.
Mm-hmm. I'm very curious to see how that goes, because there's only so many times Reach can go into a building with a bunch of guys, be the only survivor, before someone goes, how the fuck are you always the only survivor?
Yes, this is also the other thing. It's like, does he end up being the only survivor, and that's what causes Quinn to be like, all right, I want to meet this number 2.
I want to meet this unkillable dude.
Yeah, who is this guy that has rocked up and in the last week has survived like 3 altercations as the only survivor? Like, yeah, it's going to start raising questions. It's going to be
absolutely. But so far, phenomenal season. I'm excited to see where it's going. I'm enjoying, for the most part, the show being a little bit more enclosed in the house. I know, like, every episode he does go on like an excursion, but it feels like there's risk to an excursion. He's not just going to get information. It's like the balancing of, oh my god, how long do I have? And it adds attention to everything he's doing, which I think really adds a lot to this season. I'm really enjoying it for that reason.
Yeah, it is. Like the last one was cool where they were going all over the place, but yeah, having it be more locked down to this local town again is been a lot of fun.
Daredevil.
We're so and right. I know we meme a lot, and we say this phrase many times. Most of the time, kind of as a meme. Let's be real. But actually, for once, I do think we might be back.
We are. I believe the phrase is so fucking back. However, I'm going to continue to huff copium that Foggy is in fact not dead. For the foreseeable future. I do have some issues with the episodes 1 and 2.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of the discourse on Twitter today. After watching the show, like as I was watching each episode this evening, I was getting braver scrolling on Twitter because I'm like, I've watched over 50% of what's come out. There's less that can be spoiled now. So I was kind of scrolling through, and as with everything, you've got people who will point out genuine problems and then overreact to said problems. And then you've got people who point out things that they think is a problem that I don't think is a problem. That is the beauty of discussion, right? One criticism I've seen that I agree with is they've, so far it seems, changed the entire supporting cast. Foggy's gone, Karen's gone. Yeah, they were in episode 1, but we've not seen them since.
Yeah, I suppose other than Kingpin.
I wouldn't say supporting cast, I'd say it's main antagonist.
But other than him, yeah, no one's the same.
Yeah. Which I do have an issue with. If there was if they spent this season handing over the reins to the new supporting cast, and then from next season it was just this cast, I wouldn't have as big an issue. Because these characters seem interesting and I'm excited for them.
Yeah.
But for there to be Foggy and Karen aren't going to be in the show, to we've rewritten it, they're going to be in the show, and everyone goes, fuck yeah. And now they were in it for half an hour.
Do you know, I wonder if this was partly linked in with the whole stuff of like our hands were a bit tied with some stuff. Like
maybe
some of these decisions of not bringing back old supporting casts and getting some new, like they're kind of like, we're kind of already locked in on going this way.
Now, the criticism I've seen, which I do not agree with,
Okay.
is people talking about the amount of CGI in the fight scene with Bullseye / the quality of the CGI. I think, although it is clearly CGI for a decent amount of the fight, it doesn't come across as, oh my god, I'm watching a video game cutscene to me. And it comes across as these are two basically superhumans having a really weird fight, which it is because of the nature of their abilities. And it actually added a bit to me.
So
We lost parts of what I enjoyed about Daredevil and the way his fights worked. We absolutely did. But we also got parts in. We got to see Matt more acrobatic than we've ever seen him before, which was really nice.
So with the fight stuff, I don't think there's as much CGI as some people think there is. The whole beginning chase thing, yes, there is a lot of digital double stuff there that is clearly done to, like you say, make him more acrobatic, because that's stuff that's very hard to do practically in a believable sense, because it's like a human can't actually move that quick and that like. So I'm okay with that. Yes, could it have been cleaned up a bit? I think they did a good job because they had the advantage of it was nighttime. You can hide a lot in nighttime with lighting. It makes their life easier. And I know this is Disney, but I will always give some leeway because it is a TV show. The actual fight in the bar, I don't think there's as much CGI as some people were saying there was. I think the issue was actually the whole smoke grenade would be what was the CGI, and I think that was what threw people off because of how it's comped on. It then made the actual fight footage look weird. Because I was watching, I was like,
very real chance of that.
There is no way they have a smoke grenade going off constantly in there.
No, not a chance.
So that's all comped on. And if smoke, let's be real, smoke is not an easy thing to comp onto onto a visual
How do you get the translucence level right and the density? Yeah. It's not easy.
So I think that added to a weird look to the fight. But I also really enjoyed it. Wasn't quite a wanna, but essentially was. There was
so they got that vibe that we had.
That's it.
So even to the point of at no point I think did they do a sub out of Charlie Cox for a stunt double. Which in Daredevil, when a door would get closed and you'd like watch something else for a second, that's when they'd slip a stunt double in. The iconic one I always think of is in season 1, I think it's episode 4, with the first ever hallway fight scene in Daredevil, not ever, Christ. When he goes in and out of the rooms and you just hear the noises, you can see, if you really look, that is no longer Charlie Cox who comes out. The level of fighting goes up 10% with more insane shit. They fall into another room, and then guess what? Out comes Charlie Cox. Brilliant TV making, but it's fucking obvious that in between, that's not Charlie Cox, and you can notice the difference in quality of the physical prowess.
Yeah. There was... they got the vibe of a wanna. There was obviously, I definitely know there was hidden cuts when, people were fleeing across the camera. So there's probably a cut there. When the doors in the bar shut, but, the stuff up the stairwell and all that, they got that vibe. And to get that, that is our kickstart into this new season. I love that they essentially were this is what everybody loved from the Netflix show. We are going to nail that vibe off the rip so that you don't feel like you're in a completely new world, which I think was a smart decision.
So here's my thing with it, and this is neither a good or bad thing, this is just a fact thing in my opinion. I think some of the criticism is coming from the fact that it doesn't look like the Netflix show.
Yep.
It looks more like a really high quality 6-episode limited series, a la The Penguin.
Yeah.
In the fact of it doesn't feel like they have sets, and there's a lot more happening on the street of New York, and it's not the same street every time.
Yeah.
Whereas the Netflix stuff, they had sets designed because they were working on 4 TV shows that used a lot of the same stuff, where a lot of character crossover. So Hogarth's office, all of the apartments and that was where a lot of the discussion and stuff happened, and they were lit very. This is big TV we're making. This is we're rattling off seasons.
Yeah.
That visual change throws you off. It does, especially when you think you're getting the same product. I think that's caused a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. But I might be, in the entire world right now, one of the most qualified people to talk about the quality difference between Netflix and this.
Yeah, I think
because I've just finished watching all the Netflix stuff.
You are 1 in 100 people probably that have done this recently, where they've binged all the Netflix.
And I promise you, if you think the Netflix stuff is far and away infinitely better on writing, cinematography, acting, and action, there are some rose-tinted glasses going on. Because like I've just said, there are numerous occasions in every single show where I, not watching super critically in that mistake sense, spot when there's a stunt double or whatever.
Yeah.
It's what I refer to as charm, right? It has a bit of charm to it. What I will say is, where it's lost a little bit of that charm, it's been replaced with other charm, like the slightly CGI stuff, which makes it feel a touch Uncanny Valley. But I think the level of Uncanny Valley they've hit is actually perfect, because in my opinion, that's what it would feel like to see a fucking superhero swinging from buildings. It would feel a bit uncanny. You'd be like, what the fuck was that? That was a dude with horns just swinging through the city. What's going on? That would feel a bit weird. Some of the stylistic changes they made for the cinematography, I fuck with heavy. When they're in the bar in that opening scene, and it goes from letterboxed to full screen as he's trying to listen to the phone call, to then bringing down the aspect ratio and zooming in to show that his ears are tuning into what he's talking about, that fucked so incredibly hard. That was a great decision. I love it. I love it so much.
There's some great lighting choices that have been also similar creative choices, in the sense of like at the end of episode 1, the constant like putting him in a red light to show that he's on this edge of going back to being the Daredevil. Like those feelings are coming back of what kind of led him down that path. And like there's so much creative, subtle like storytelling there through things that aren't obvious.
Yes. I completely agree. I think it, for the most part, it is difficult, right? Everyone's expecting it to just be the same thing we had from Netflix. That was never going to be the case. Them sets don't exist anymore. While some of the people who worked on it previously still work on it, they've also gone off, done other things. They've changed as a creative person in that time. They're going to have different opinions now. Things are going to be different. I think too many people thought it would just feel like season 4, right?
Yeah.
What I will say is you've got to treat it fairly as a TV show. I think we've seen a lot more to like than dislike, but there is a bit of a difference. Netflix, for better or worse, isn't a criticism or a glazing for either side here. Just my opinion on the facts. Netflix did do a bit more practical. But they also didn't do the practical very well all the time. Daredevil doesn't come across as a super acrobat in a lot of the Daredevil series. He just doesn't. And they didn't try and polish it up, which gave it a charm. Absolutely fine. However, that was when the Netflix stuff was in a bit of a world where although it was connected to the MCU, they didn't want to hard connect it too much, which left it a bit weird and floaty. Now, it's been made by different people. Disney have a different standard. Whether you think it's better or worse is irrelevant. They have a different standard for the amount of practical done and how polished that gets. And this is also now absolutely 100% definitely in the MCU. Therefore, it needs to look and feel a bit more superhuman. Therefore, they go for the Daredevil swinging through the streets. When he breaks the cop's arm in the fight at the end of episode 2, that blood would have looked different in Netflix. Because it would have come out of the sleeve more. That is a style change based on how practical it was, because the arm was more aggressive than it would have been. Like that arm breaking backwards wouldn't have been that
Yeah.
aggressive in the Netflix show because it would have been more practical.
Yeah.
It would have just been like choreography, and then they would have just
Mhm.
added like a blood pack or whatever. This one, it looked more like maybe there was a practical trick to make his arm invert because it fucking inverted. I saw it, and then it was CGI to add the blood on instead of a blood pack because of whatever mechanism they used for the arm thing. So it looks different, but
Yeah.
it achieves the same thing. I think it felt a bit more brutal. And this is the
Mm.
things you've got to accept.
Well,
It's
yeah,
not going to be the same show.
No, it's not. Like, and you've also got to remember the era when the Netflix shows were coming out, CGI was still like good CGI was still only done at film level. Like, if you think the closest competitor to the Netflix show at the time was the CW shows, and the CGI on that was a little rough at times, and it's been meme to all hell. They had to lean on practical, and while I would say practical in a lot of sense often comes across better, there is limitations to it. Like, and especially practical done on a like stunt stuff done on a TV show doesn't have the budget to go full on all out with like custom stunt rigs and all sorts to get like these crazy stunts done. There's a budget constraint there, and like you say, the polish isn't there, which gave it a nice charm, and it kind of had its visual style. It's a completely different landscape now. CGI is a lot more accessible. Disney wants to push CGI into things because it allows them to do more. Whether they have it fully polished well enough, that's your decision. There's still practical stuff that happened in this show. Like,
So much.
Straight away, when Foggy gets shot, I'm like, squib pack. Just the way that it splattered blood, I was just like, that was practical. That was well done. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be differences. People are going to have to kind of accept that. I think the core and heart of the show, though, is as close as it could be and still feels like this is our Daredevil. Just slightly different tweak on the visuals.
Yeah, completely. I completely agree. And I think, don't get me wrong, I don't expect everyone to be necessarily over the moon and happy about it, but they need to not act like it makes this show inferior just because they don't particularly like the way it's being done. But now that we've got over like the discussion about the first episodes because they're so raw still, let's talk about the story a little bit.
I was
My
right.
boy Foggy's not dead. He's not.
Okay. I'm sorry. He's dead.
Are you ready to? Are you ready to hear the copium I was huffing when he got shot? You're gonna love the copium I was on.
It wasn't directly on his head.
So yeah, initially because he got shot in the gut, I was like, that always gives you hope. It's designed to give you hope, especially when it's bullseye. He doesn't miss. As the fight's going on and they're coming back to the heartbeat, what I was genuinely thinking was going to happen was this was going to be as the snap happened, and Foggy was going to get dusted while bleeding out, and then he was going to come back. And as we know, everyone who came back from the blip came back safe.
Well,
he would have come back safe.
From what we know.
Yeah, no, that's the official law. People who were in aeroplanes got brought back down safely on the ground. Everyone came back in a safe way.
Just reappears on the street bleeding out.
Yeah, so this is my thing. If we accept that as the law, which we've been told is the law, everyone who came back safe, you wouldn't have someone come back bleeding out. Yeah. So in my head, I was like, is this how we're going to get the moment of Daredevil experience in the snap? He's going to think Foggy's just died, and then he's going to realise loads of heartbeats have disappeared. And then we'll get a little time jump and Foggy will come back and then he'll be like, oh my god, you're okay, I thought you were going to die. And then it gets to play with that whole idea of Foggy's going to die, Foggy's not going to die. We didn't get that. No. I was huffing so much copium. Even after his heart stopped and we got the moment, I was like, maybe there's still a chance.
I knew the moment they were outside the bar and then Matt went off to go save this person that he had, Benny. I was like, this is Foggy's dying. I was like, this is what everyone predicted. I was just like, I could just feel it. I was like, this is it. I want to say that I was right on how that he used the Foggy Death. You thought last week, you were saying you were thinking it was going to be what brought him back to being Daredevil.
Yeah, I
I
thought that I thought Foggy might not die 10 minutes in. I thought we might get more Foggy than that. How
I
foolish of me.
yeah, I was thinking it was going to be a flashback. I was slightly wrong in that. No, this is where we're jumping straight in, and then we get a time jump. But yeah, it was used as the catalyst for him stopping. Am I upset that Foggy is dead? Of course, we all love
Bullshit,
Foggy.
man.
It's a sad day. Do I think that they needed that to happen to put Matt in this place of not wanting to be Daredevil, kind of changing like that was clearly the story direction they decided on. We talked about this last week. You need a big catalyst to do that. There's two people that do that, and unfortunately, Foggy was the one that had to be the used in this situation.
Yeah.
Do you want me to give you some copium? It's been announced that Foggy will be filming for season 2.
Yeah.
I think
So
it
he's
will be
filming for
purely for
season 2.
flashbacks.
It's absolutely gonna be flashbacks, but more copium. I'm gonna have to
Okay, here we
copium
go.
just because it's fun to. I'm not 100% sure of the White Tiger's amulet powers,
Right.
and they are definitely leaning a bit more on a comic booky vibe in this show.
Yeah.
There is nothing more comic booky than someone being fucking dead and then just not being.
True.
There is nothing more comic booky than that.
True.
That is the most comic book thing that can happen.
I feel like that happens more often though to the actual heroes themselves.
It happens to fucking everyone. Apart from traditionally, the Waynes, Uncle Ben, and Gwen Stacy, and for a long time Jason Todd. They were the 4 characters that forever people joked would stay dead. 2 of them are no longer dead.
Yeah. I mean, I am accepting that he's gone.
Yeah.
As sad as it is.
And going back to what I said about, I'm not sure how I feel about them changing the supporting cast so much.
Mm-hmm.
Really not a fan of Karen just running away to San Francisco. That feels very out of character. I know we don't know exactly what happened in the in-between.
Yeah.
But that doesn't feel very Karen.
So I think this is where I think the creative changes showed. We originally weren't having anyone come back, were we?
No.
And then fans were like, what? You're not bringing Karen and Foggy back? Then there was a whole rewrite, which I think changed this whole reason as to why Matt stopped being Daredevil. And they changed it to use Karen and Foggy and Foggy's death. But they'd already kind of pre-decided this overarching story of like Wilson Fisk being mayor and Matt no longer is Daredevil, but how does he deal with this? And had this other idea of supporting characters. And it's like, well, shit, how do we now deal with Karen? And I think, unfortunately, the sloppiness of, they had an issue between the two of them because of over Foggy's death, so Karen moved away, I think was unfortunately like a kind of the hands were tied situation again, which they've mentioned there was a couple of things they were stuck with, which is why I think we've heard she's filming for season 2, because they've now got they can now from the get-go be like, okay, we can bring her back in properly.
I don't think we're done with Karen for the season.
No.
Because this is metagaming a little bit. Deborah Ann Wolf has been talking about this project so much online that if she was only in like 10 total minutes of the first episode, she wouldn't make such a big deal about it.
No.
She would have, if she was a smart person for their career, would have gone, I'm excited to be back, would have said nothing, and then watched the internet lose its mind when she's only in the first episode. And then she would have gone to her agent and gone, when they call saying they need me back, increase the price by 10%.
Yeah.
Right?
I think this start of the story arc that we're now on was kind of already pre-decided. They needed a reason for her to be not there and then they've worked out how to bring her back in with the rewrites.
Got a feeling our new mayor of New York might be what makes Karen go, hold the fucking phone, and comes back to fuck shit up.
Yeah, there's going to be some reason she comes back, and they eventually sit down and work through whatever the fuck went down. By the sounds of it, Matt vanished off the face of the earth for like a week.
He did a Matt, yeah.
Then Karen was like, well, you just abandoned me after our best friends died, and now
I also lost a friend and you just disappeared.
Yeah, so I'm going now, and then Matt's now upset because he's now been abandoned. So there's obviously some funny that he's now going to be dating a therapist. Sounds like he needs to go to one.
Say what you want about this show so far. They have already nailed the fact that Matthew Murdoch is a massive Catholic whore. Say what you want, it's the truth. I am enjoying the new supporting cast. While I miss our old supporting cast, Sherry, the police officer turned private investigator, seems like a cool dude.
Yeah.
The Kristen, I forget her middle name, McDuffie, I think it was, seems pretty cool. BB Urick.
Yeah, having a little internet news reporter.
Seeing her sit down with Fisk when Fisk killed her uncle that she is named after made my blood boil. I wanted her to pull a gun out of her handbag and shoot him in the fucking head.
Well, I think that's clearly, we know where
an
that's
arc. Yeah,
we know
absolutely.
that's going somewhere. Fisk is obviously going to try and use her a bit for his gain. Yeah, no, the supporting cast is great, and I love, like, I will say, not having Matt as Daredevil for these first couple of episodes, obviously skipping the opening bit and then from time jump onwards, it's been nice. I'm really enjoying the more lawyer side, the bantering stuff, the like politics side, like that story that's going on is very enjoyable, because the lawyer stuff and those stories were fun from the Netflix show. Yes, of course, I want to see Matt put on the suit and go kick ass, but it is also fun that we're getting to see the funny side that people seem to forget, and like the kind of friendly banter that's going on amongst this group of people.
Matt trying to have a life that isn't Daredevil. It's just good, right? Good writing isn't about all my superheroes kicking ass. It's about exploring a person. And yeah, people might go, that's not what comics are about, bro. It absolutely fucking is. It's like the purest form of like an extended character piece.
Yeah.
And getting to see more of the courtroom demeanor is brilliant. The White Tiger case being the case he's working on is fucking brilliant. I'm very excited to see how that goes.
Yeah.
And yeah, it feels I think there is a lot more to be excited about for this show than there is to be sad that we're missing out on from the Netflix era.
Like, we're gonna see a story arc where Matt's dealing with, like, he personally crossed the line, so he hung up the suit. Also, the attitude of there are other vigilantes out there. It doesn't need every single one of us.
The man who dresses like a spider.
The man who dresses like a spider. There's
the one with a skull on his chest.
Yeah, the one with a skull on his chest. And then obviously we know White Tiger's out there. So there's this idea that there's other vigilantes just roaming around doing stuff. So like this story of Matt dealing with not, and seemingly for the last year has done a good job of doesn't want to go anywhere near it. But it's Wilson Fisk is the catalyst that's clearly pulling him back in because of the history there. So yeah, all of that side is super interesting. I'm intrigued to see where this White Tiger story goes, because it clearly involves Punisher in some degree.
So,
yes
and no.
So here's what I was going to ask you, if you're on the same wavelength with me. Obviously, deliberately, we are shown that the dodgy cop, has a Punisher tattoo with the American flag in it. I remember when Punisher had to change its logo because certain cops were using it as a symbol, not really understanding the message of Punisher. And we talked about that when it was in the news, and this idea that these people that think they understand what the Punisher is, but actually they are exactly what the Punisher hates. I'm wondering if they're playing into that with this.
So in the comics, there are cops who wear the Punisher logo.
Right.
That is the thing. And they are dirty cops, and the Punisher kills them. These are dirty cops who agree conceptually with what the Punisher's doing, so they think it's okay for them to kill cops. Although the Punisher is genuinely psychotic and doesn't think what he's doing is wrong, he is of the opinion, that's why I didn't become a police officer. You became a police officer, you swore to follow the law. By breaking the law, you are the worst of the worst. I'm going to punish you for that.
Well, yeah, the Punisher
So
knows...
that is the line we're going to be going, I expect.
Yeah, the Punisher...
And it's going to be so much fun watching the Punisher gun down dirty cops. I cannot wait.
Well, yeah, and it's like, it's going to be interesting to see Matt. Obviously, we know he goes and finds him, and is probably going to confront him about these cops thinking they're doing it for him, and then there's going to be this whole thing of
piss him off. Yeah.
Then we're going to get to see that no, the Punisher hates these people, and I think we're
one thing you've not mentioned yet that me and Jenna instantly picked up on, and now I'm wondering if it was just an observation me and Jenna had. The second police officer that he threw into the ground
is dead.
He died, right?
Okay, yeah. So this was the other thing. I'm like,
okay, cool.
So okay, here's the thing. I'm not.
The first guy might be alive. That second guy's got to be dead, right?
I don't know. I will say
he seems very dead.
The choice by the sound engineers the Foley artists was an aggressive one, and it definitely made me go, hold up. That was, I'm like, but surely Matt's, he's not going to be still struggling with he crossed the line once. Surely they're not going to have him cross it again. But they could. In my head, I'm like, because we know this is still kind of, he hasn't got over the Foggy situation. He's just buried it. And it's like, are we going to see this line of him still kind of crossing over the line sometimes? And it's going to take, he's not going to be checking himself. And is it then going to be Frank Castle that's like, no, that's what I do. You're meant to be better than me. We've been here and you told me you're better. And maybe it's Frank Castle that then snaps him out of it. But yeah, that crunch was a bit
it was a very aggressive choice.
Yes.
And it might just be because that's the first real crunch we had of the show. Maybe that's just going to be how they're doing their crunches for an unconscious dude. Because it's not something you think about. Yeah, but when a show has shown a noise to be that dude's out cold now, and then you hear a different noise which sounds more aggressive, and in such a landing on the neck with such a snappy movement, your brain instantly goes, that sounds like a death noise, not an unconscious noise.
So if it was on his back, I'd be like, that cop's going to be paralyzed. Now I'm like, he's either paralyzed or he's dead.
Yeah. Very curious to see how that gets paid off next week. I want to know.
Well, here's something that I don't know if you also picked up on then. He got smacked in the face and blood dripped. He has blood there. There's is he going to clean it up? Is this now dirty cops in a dirty, no one's going to know these cops are there because they're off duty and they're dirty. They're just going to eventually these cops aren't showing up.
So, I have a thought.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way Daredevil's never left any DNA evidence at a crime scene. So, what might happen is that blood gets swabbed up, it goes in the system, and they go, that blood is the same as all of these other crime scenes. That is Daredevil's blood.
He's back.
And then that news gets back to Wilson Fisk.
Oh, yes. Didn't think about that.
And I don't know if this is a thing, this might be a thing in America, where when you become a lawyer and you join the bar, I think you have to give over a DNA sample.
Might
be a thing.
I'm
I
not
think it's
100%.
definitely a thing in some states. I don't know about all states.
I don't know.
But because they're like it's something about by being an officer of the court, your DNA has to be on system.
Possibly.
And even as a lawyer, even if you're not like a prosecutor, you are still an officer of the court, so your DNA has to be on system. So I don't know if it might come back as that's Matthew Murdoch's blood. What the fuck?
Maybe.
But yes, there was a lot of emphasis put on that blood drop.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the way they're showing his powers now, because they're using a lot of this, like, focusing in on a sound he hears.
I wasn't sure if it's like, that's probably the first time, let's be honest, that's probably the first time in a year that he's re-smelt his own blood. And is it like you say, sort of a bit of
Shark in the water type thing.
We're back here. I did enjoy the moment where he's obviously focused in on them and knows they're getting a gun out, and he's like, no, don't do this, please don't do this. And I'm like, he's gonna have to finally give up this gig.
Pacifism type beat, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the whole idea of that was like that line is almost like a double entendre. It's him going to them, please don't do this, but it's also him going to himself like, please don't get in a fight, please don't get in a fight, please, I don't want to do this, don't get in a fight. Yeah. He's talking to himself and them at the same time.
He's like, I'm not going to let myself die. So he's like, please don't put me in the situation where I'm going to have to fight back and show you who I really am. But yeah.
I also am kind of down for the officers to be okay, although I do think that noise decision is fucking wild if they're okay. And they don't say it was him because they don't want to admit they got their ass kicked by a blind lawyer.
Well,
like, there's a very kind of valid, like,
it's also
thing
the
they'd
thing
stay
of, like,
silent about.
If they are alive, that whole situation was them being dirty cops, so they can't really talk about it because they shouldn't be doing it. So then, yeah, there's this situation, especially when they're then back in court and Matt's there all lawyered up and they're like, that fucking guy just beat our ass, what the fuck? Who the fuck is this guy?
Really, really curious. Definitely a cliffhanger for the end of the second episode. Very excited to see what we get next week, but Daredevil's back, baby.
Yeah, it really is. And honestly, I'm loving these first two episodes. I get the complaints in some things, but overall, I think they've done a great job of kind of returning us to this world of Daredevil.
I agree. Oscars time, baby.
Yes, I'm ready for your rant.
Me rant about things? Never. It's fake news. Never happened. This way you play like a million clips. Right, so we're just going to go through, we're going to read out the nominations again like we did about a month ago, and we're now also going to give you the winner. It's like we're doing the Oscars for you. Much better. Actor in a lead role. The nominations were Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothy Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Ralph Fiennes for Conclave, and Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice. The popular opinion was that Fiennes, Stan, or Chalamet would win. That people were of the opinion they were the three best performances of the year. And after that, it became a my guy versus your guy type beat. Anyone was happy if one of them three won, but most people had a favourite. The winner was Adrian Brody for The Brutalist. I'm sure it's a worthy performance. Obviously, as we discussed during the nominations, big black cloud because of the use of AI in his Ukrainian, Bulgarian,
Dutch.
Was it Dutch? An accent in the film was enhanced via AI. People think that kind of is a knock-on should the actor win an award when their performance was enhanced with AI.
Yep.
I think that is one of the more valid complaints you're ever going to hear about an award. Is Sebastian Stan spent months putting on a fuck ton of weight, studying Donald Trump's mannerisms.
Yeah.
He had to go to therapy because he got so deep in this hole with Donald Trump, which is not a nice hole to be in.
No.
And people he put himself through that. Ralph Fiennes, who is a phenomenal actor, put on one of the best acting performances of his career. And they've lost out to someone who used AI.
Yeah.
Actress in a lead. Cynthia Varro for Wicked. Carla Sofia Gascon for Emilia Perez. Mikey Madison for Honora. Demi Moore for The Substance, and Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here.
Mm-hmm.
Mikey Madison was the winner for Honora.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a worthy performance. I'm not saying it isn't. I've not seen any of these films. I can't comment. What I have seen is people have done a lot of breakdowns since, and they've noticed that there is a very disproportionate amount of lead actresses who win this role who played women who were strippers, prostitutes, sex workers of that ilk in films. So people are questioning what the Oscars are doing there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actor in a support, I believe this was the least dramatic category of
Least
the Oscars.
controversial.
Yes. The nominations were Yura Borisov for Honora, Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, and Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice. There was a little bit of pre-drama for this award, with Jeremy Strong and Kieran Culkin having worked together on the TV show Succession, in which Jeremy Strong is a very method actor to a fault, and that rubs people the wrong way.
Right.
Kieran Culkin is very much I'm a professional actor, I'm just going to turn up and do my shit, which is annoying to people in another way.
Yep.
They are almost the complete opposites in that way. So a lot of people are like, oh, apparently they hated each other on set and now they're competing against each other for an Oscar, blah, blah, blah. And Kieran Culkin won. Congratulations, Kieran Culkin. And in his speech, he said, I love you, Jeremy. You made me a better actor while we worked together. Thank you so much for this award. So that kind of destroyed any drama people wanted there to be, because Jeremy Strong and Kieran Culkin were both rooting for each other and they had a nice moment afterwards as well. So, get fucked drama.
I also hear his wife lost a bet, so now he's having 4 kids.
Yes. Apparently they've now gone from 2 to 4 kids in the life plan. Because before winning an Emmy, she said, if you win an Emmy, we can have a 3rd kid.
Yeah.
And then he won an Emmy, and she went, if you win an Oscar, we could have a 4th kid. And now he's won an Oscar, and obviously he told that anecdote in his speech. Very funny. Actress in a supporting role: Monica Barbau for A Complete Unknown, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, and Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. The winner was Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. As I touched on, and I've not looked into it anymore, Emilia Perez is a film that has a lot of controversy around it. People aren't happy. I'm not going to touch it with 10-foot barge pole because I am not informed enough to discuss the nuances. Animated feature film. Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot. The winner was Flow. Now, I'm going to put this at the top. Flow is, by all accounts, a phenomenal film. It was made entirely in Blender. It was a passion project. I'm not saying that Flow is not a great film. On the flip side, The Wild Robot, across all various award shows, is one of the most nominated animated films of all time. It has not won a single award for being the best animated film.
It's quite interesting that you can be the most awarded animated film but not win the best.
I'm not saying that more nominations makes you better film. I'm not saying that is the case. It doesn't mean if you're the second best at everything, you're a better film than the film that's the 3 best in one category and then dog shit everything else. I do understand that concept. However, I watch a lot of films. 2024 might be the most films I've watched in a year in about 5 years. I made a real effort to watch old films from my backlog and new films in the cinema last year. The Wild Robot is absolutely one of my favourite films that I've ever seen. It's a masterpiece. I really struggle to understand how Flow is better than it. I'm going to have to sit down and watch Flow. Because if I don't, I might just go insane. I need to know.
Yeah.
I need to know. And you know what? That is the good thing about an award show. Because I wouldn't have watched... If the Wild Robot watched, I probably wouldn't have watched Flow. But
It's
now,
interesting because, like
I
you
just
say,
kind of need to know.
more nominations doesn't mean you are the best, but by laws of averages, for how many times it got nominated for Best Animated Picture, and not all of these other ones did, you would think that it would win once. Not necessarily saying it should have won the Oscar, but one of these awards it should realistically should have won then. But yeah, it's
So,
a
just to put some numbers on it, and numbers don't mean anything, let's be clear.
mm-hmm.
Ratings. The Wild Robot on IMDb got an 8.2 out of 10. Horrifically low. Rotten Tomatoes, it got 96%.
Mm-hmm.
Flow got 97% on Rotten Tomatoes and 7.9 on IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm just going to have to watch it. Maybe it'll piss me off more because I'll be like, there is no way that's better than The Wild Robot. Maybe I won't like it as much, but I'll kind of see why they felt that way. I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned right now, The Wild Robot was robbed.
I think that's fair.
Animated short.
Mm-hmm.
You had Beautiful Men, In the Shadows of Cyprus, Magic Candies, Wonder to Wonder, and Yuck. Don't know anything about any of these. In the Shadow of Cyprus was the winner. As far as I know, no drama. We love it. Cinematography.
Mm-hmm.
I might have accidentally mistyped his name here. Is his name Lol? And I've just gaslit my... Yeah, his name's Lol. Lol Crawley for The Brutalist. Greg Fraser for Doom Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Gullahome for Emilia Perez. Ed Lachman for Maria. And Jarin Blasky for Nosferatu. The winner was Lol Crawley for The Brutalist. I've not seen it. I cannot comment. I am impressed that many people think the cinematography was better than Dune Part 2.
Well, that's because they didn't watch Doom Part 2 to vote on it. So
yeah, there may be a little bit of that going on. Side note, if anyone has access to the app that the Oscars gives these people to watch all of the films in the world,
yeah, I saw that.
Drop me your login details.
Is that do they have password sharing allowed?
Costume design. We had Ariana Phillips for A Complete Unknown, Lissy Crystal for Conclave, Janty Yates and Dave Crossman for Gladiator 2, Linda Muir for Nosferatu, and Paul Tazewell for Wicked.
Mm-hmm.
Wicked was the winner, or Paul Tazewell rather. This film had a little bit of drama around it. People, ironically, a lot of theatre people were kind of unimpressed with Wicked's costume department, bearing in mind it's an adaptation of a theatre production, and they felt Nosferatu was robbed.
Oh.
I've seen some of the costume and stuff from Nosferatu. It looks phenomenal. I thought that was going to win. I understand that Wicked is kind of the obvious winner for this, though.
I also think if I'm right, he is the first black person to win costume design.
Oh, I hadn't seen that anywhere, but you may well be right about that, which is, I mean, awesome.
Yeah.
Directing. Obviously, the big drama about this was a certain Denis Villeneuve not getting a nomination.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Sean Baker for Anora, Brady Corbett for The Brutalist, James Mangold for A Complete Unknown, Jacques Audidard for Emilia Perez, and Coralie Fragrant for The Substance, the winner being Sean Baker for Anora. I've not seen too much drama about who won out of the 5 nominees. The only thing I've really seen is people aren't impressed that Dennis didn't even get a nomination, which I think is valid.
Yeah.
Documentary feature. Black Box Diaries, No Other Land, Porcelain War, soundtrack to A Coup d'Etat, and Sugarcane. The winner was No Other Land. What I was not aware of, and what we won't touch too closely, was that No Other Land is a documentary about the people of Palestine currently.
Oh.
And the person who was initially going to be giving out this award was Gal Gadot. For those of you who are not aware, Gal Gadot is Israeli and was a member of the IDF. She pulled out last minute, and Selena Gomez, I believe, instead gave out the award. And there is an understanding that maybe Gal Gadot pulled out because it was understood that the winner was going to be a Palestinian documentary about the way they are being treated currently. Never a dull day.
No, not with the Oscars.
No. Documentary short. Death by Numbers, I Am Ready Warden, Incident, Instruments of a Beating Heart, and The Only Girl in the Orchestra, which was the winner. Film editing. Sean Baker for Anora. David Jankso, I do apologise, The Brutalist. Nick Emerson, Conclave. Juliette Welthing for Emilia Perez, and Myron Kirstein for Wicked. The winner was Sean Baker for Anora. Makeup and hairstyling. A Different Man. Emilia Perez. Nosferatu, The Substance, and Wicked. With the winner being The Substance. Again, it being a bit of a horror film and some of the makeup and hairstyling used in that, I don't think that was a massive shock. I think it was kind of assumed it was going to be between that and Nosferatu.
Yeah, I'd heard Nosferatu.
So I don't think it's a massive shock.
Fair enough.
Best original score. Daniel Bloomberg, The Brutalist. Volker Bertelmann, Conclave. Clement Ducol and Camille for Emilia Perez. John Powell and Stephanie Schwartz for Wicked. And Chris Bowers, The Wild Robot. The drama in this category was obviously surrounding Doom 2 and whether it should or shouldn't be allowed. And of course, the lack of inclusion for Challengers, which had an excellent score. The winner was The Brutalist. Daniel Bloomberg. Then, original song for a film. You had El Amal for Emilia Perez. The Journey for The 6888. Like a Bird for Sing Sing. Mi Camino for Emilia Perez. And Never Too Late for Elton John, Never Too Late. The winner was El Amal for Emilia Perez.
Okay.
And then we had Best Picture, which was Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. And the winner was Anora. This brought Anora's total for the Oscars up to 5, including some of the ones we've not discussed.
Yep.
And this also gave Sean Baker a very prestigious title. He became the first ever person to, for one film, win Best Picture, Best Director, Best Editor, and Best Screenplay. Original Screenplay, sorry.
Oh.
Because he also won that one, which we didn't cover.
That's pretty impressive.
So they won 5 awards for Anora, 4 went to Sean Baker, and 1 went to Mikey Madison as the lead. The kind of drama-y bits is that Doom Part 2 only won 2 awards, whereas the first one won 6. And obviously, Doom Part 2 is a superior film. So a lot of people are a little bit miffed by that, I guess.
Yeah.
But other than that, that was the Oscars. Viewership is on the up. It's the highest it's been in 5 years. It's still not recovered to the point it was pre-pandemic, but it's getting closer back to pre-pandemic numbers. But for 5 years before the pandemic, the numbers were dropping off a nosedive. It went from 40 million down to 19 million when the pandemic started, and now we're back up to like 23. So still a long way to go to get back to where it was.
Yeah, though I have seen that the rights for where it's streamed and stuff is coming up
in the air.
And apparently Netflix is included in the discussion.
Yeah, that's not going to go well because Netflix have not handled live TV very well so far in the couple of test runs they've done. It'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah,
I'd like to see the Oscars do a better job of showing all of their awards, because right now only like 1 in 4 awards actually gets broadcasted.
Yeah,
and I'd like to see everyone get their moment.
Well, yeah, or
and stop playing people off.
You can even do similar to what like Summer Games Fest does, where it still gets announced on stage. They don't necessarily go up and get their award, but like for the smaller ones, like at least still announce it there and then, rather than it just being like, oh, and these also got announced on the website and stuff.
Exactly. But let's get into some nerdy news.
Yes.
Bit of a smaller week this week
I was
because the
going to
news
say,
has
yeah,
been
not as
dominated by the
much.
Oscars.
True.
But let's get started. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man and X-Men 97 Seasons 2 are both targeting a 2026 release, with Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man targeting a yearly release cycle for each new season.
Don't
Imagine a world where you get a new season of your favourite TV show every goddamn year.
We're also meant to be getting Daredevil Born Again Season 2 in 2026. So it's like,
Yeah.
all of them are hitting yearly releases, which is great.
It's going to be chaos. Me and
Yeah.
Hori aren't going to be able to leave our rooms in 2026. It's going to be great.
Yeah, make sure we're getting paid by then.
Yeah. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The Lord of the Rings Hunt for Gollum film has been delayed a year to December 27. Initially, it was due December 26. It happens, not a massive shock.
Yeah.
I'm used to stuff getting delayed for a year now.
Yeah.
I'd be more shocked if something came out when it said it was going to.
Yeah.
The Lanterns TV show, which we got our first teaser picture of, nothing crazy,
Yes.
but we got a picture, is said to be trying to make the characters accessible to people unfamiliar with the mythos, while also satisfying those who know it forwards and backwards by delving into the characters both as lanterns and as people. I don't feel like I come across as positive as I try to be. And I don't know if that's because you guys love ribbing me for being a negative dude, or if maybe I do come across a lot more negative than I mean to, whichever. I'm trying to approach stuff like this with a positive mindset. The fact that they are trying to make the lanterns as open to as many people as possible, while also satisfying the people who love the lanterns, is a good thing. Whether they stick the landing or not, it obviously remains to be seen. But the fact that that is what their goal is good.
Yeah, I mean, and this came with them putting out a first look picture, didn't they?
Yeah.
Of which everyone was like, why are they in normal clothes? This isn't very lanterns. I want this, like, and show comic book pages of, like, different Green Lanterns doing all the different projections and stuff. And it's like, if we get that's what you want, but like you say, their goal is to try and be as open for everyone. If the first look is it looking super comic booky, instantly you're going to turn off a bunch of people that will just, because they're not, like, whether they're right or wrong, don't think comic book stuff is good, they'll just go, oh, don't want to watch that. Whereas you give them a normal, like, oh no, this is good TV, like these are still normal people, this is going to be more than just a comic book stuff, you've got more chance of keeping those people interested.
Absolutely. Bit of an update on the Kathleen Kennedy situation.
Yes.
Kathleen Kennedy has said she is not retiring, but has been looking at eventual successors, and when it's time, there'll be an announcement months or even a year before she hands over the reins, and she's committed to being there to help the new person take over. So, what that screams to me is yeah, they are looking into replacements, because someone that important, you have to be planning ahead.
Yeah.
And someone has taken the news that they are considering who would do a good job and gone, she's out the door any second now. And she's just gone, we're looking at who could do the job.
Yeah.
It's not happening today. Relax.
I never expected it to be happening quickly. I get she's saying she's not retiring, but you're essentially, unless you're moving on to a different role, you're stepping away from this. Like,
I don't think when she said she's not retiring, she means that she's staying forever. I think she means the plan right now is not I'm retiring at the end of 2025. I'm staying here, but yes, of course, we're always. I'm aware that I'm not an immortal god. Someone's going to need to keep the lights on once I do decide it's time. Do you want us to make that decision when it's too late?
Yeah, I imagine there's also a bit, like with all these C-level jobs, it's never as straightforward as this person is actually standing down from their own accord. There's probably a bit of pressure of like, things haven't been going great at Star Wars. Like, this is, like, and she'll be aware of that. And it's like, look, we need to think about what's next. And if that isn't including you, who are we putting there? Sort of thing.
This next bit is something that didn't need to make the news, but you know what I'm like, Corey. I enjoy this kind of stuff, and I think what he's saying here is valid.
Mm-hmm.
So Francis Ford Coppola, iconic legendary filmmaker who took a long hiatus, came back with Megapolis last year.
Mm-hmm.
It bombed. It happens. Has made this, in my opinion, iconic statement while he was accepting his Razzie on Instagram. He
Okay.
said, "So few have the courage to go against the prevailing trends of contemporary movie making. In this wreck of a world today, where art is given scores as if it was professional wrestling, I choose not to follow the gutless rules laid down by an industry so terrified of risk that despite the enormous pool of young talent at its disposal, may not create pictures that will be relevant and alive 50 years from now." Now, it is completely fair if you want to read this as someone who's a bit salty that they've been told they made the worst film of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's making some very good fucking points here.
Mm-hmm.
Art is inherently supposed to be risky,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, film and TV, although they are art forms, have been turned into this thing of cancellation. Is it going to make us money?
Well, yeah, it's just becoming too
And
money thing.
IGN going, we think this film is a 7, meanwhile it's the greatest thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
I I find it difficult because Francis Ford Coppola has made a multitude of phenomenal films.
Hmm.
So his latest film being bad, according to people, I've not seen it. I am still tempted to see it at some point because it does sound wacky and out there.
Yeah.
I'm kind of. It's not like it's some 21-year-old Jeff Bezos' son, for instance, who's got all the money in the world, decided he wanted to make film, and then he's gone on Twitter whining about cancel culture.
Yeah.
Francis Ford Coppola's gone, it's okay if you think my film's bad, but I stand by what I've made because it was truly me trying to make art. I think that's kind of badass on what art needs.
Well, yeah, he's like, if you're taking this as him being salty, I think you understand it wrong. He's saying, yeah, I had the courage to go make what I wanted to make, which is not what
What,
this industry
yeah.
wants us to do anymore.
What have you done
Okay,
this year?
okay, it didn't go well. I still made what I wanted to make.
Yeah.
Like,
Like part of me wants him to go, all those who are laughing at me for making a film that's been a failure, what film did you make this year?
well, it's like, he can just go back and be like, yeah, this is one miss in how many dubs. Like, art's not always going to resonate with everybody. That's just what art is. It's interpreted by different people in different ways. This time, what he felt was good didn't resonate with the same people that normally would, and it's just art. So, I mean, it's a
It
failure.
happens.
It's just art.
I just feel like this film is so batshit crazy when I eventually do get around to watching it, which might take years because it is me. Um, I feel like I'm going to end up loving this film. Being like, they told me this sucked. It's awesome. What do you mean?
I think out of all of that, the line that I like the most is that may not create pictures that will be relevant or alive in 50 years, considering how many of these studios nowadays are just, look at Warner Brothers, pull the plug on things that are done and they just shook them away, or Netflix cancelling all these shows after a season. Like, yeah, it's. I also feel like there's a sly dig at AI in there with the mention of how much young talent there is, but yet they're all
Yeah, and
running.
let's be clear, he can't, like, other than Adam Driver, I don't think he had too many like A-list actors in his film. He casted a lot of young talent.
Mm.
He did. He went out there and he found actors. Like, I'm not saying it was a good film. I'm not saying he's necessarily just making a good point here. It isn't a little bit upset at how it was received. I'm sure he is a bit upset that people didn't like it. That's natural. But I also think he's making some incredibly valid and worthwhile points here. And
Yeah.
I always love it when a genuine artist talks a bit of shit. One day I wish to be a real artist so I can talk some shit. We got the Bear season 4 teaser trailer, all like 10 seconds
I
of
was
it.
gonna say,
It was enough.
very, very small teaser, flashing a few moments and
Yeah.
the audio of I forget the actress's name. Io, saying like her character being talking about how the family in the kitchen is more than just a work family.
Yeah.
Which I think, well, kind of we expected this after season 3. Things were like just ready to just explode with how it was going.
Mm-hmm.
it'd be cool to see this season be them kind of re-finding that family love and get back to
Absolutely. I'm very
enjoyed.
excited for the Bear season 4.
It's gonna be good.
I'm hoping it can keep up the streak it's on.
Oh, I believe.
What I want 6 seasons of this caliber, and then they dip out, and I go, wow, that might be one of the greatest TV shows of all time. Because if they manage to do 6 seasons and dip out without being dog shit by the end, I get to go, one of the greatest TV shows of all time is now not about crime and murder. It's about fucking sandwiches in Chicago.
It's about cooking.
Yeah, like that. And it might seem weird, but that's what I want more from this show than anything else.
No.
But yeah, it's exciting. Let's fucking go. I don't know if this is good news or bad news. I've got to be honest. I think you can read this bit of news either way. So Walt Disney Animation is no longer going to be developing any original long-form content for Disney Plus.
I see.
Does that mean they're focusing on films?
I see that as them basically the focus of it being about Disney Plus to me goes, they're not going to make any long form animated stuff that goes straight to Disney Plus, which means they're focusing on their Walt Disney animated films. Which
that's, I think, the way I want to. Yes, if that is the case, I think that's good news. But because it's not explicitly said they're turning their attention on making films again, it scares me a little bit. With the animation strikes that have been going on and AI and stuff like that, that's where I'm concerned. I'd really like them to go, by the way, that's because, ironically, this is the longest we've gone without winning an Oscar for an animated film in like forever, and we'd like to win some more.
Yeah, I also think I can't name any original Disney Plus like long form things that were animated. Like I can't. There's none that like come to mind where I was like, oh, that went straight to Disney Plus, which says a lot about what they made.
Yes, but yeah, I'm choosing right now to interpret that as they're going back to trying to make films after the success of like Inside Out 2. They realised animation's actually never been in a better state in cinema, which feels insane to say when cinema seems like it's in such a bad way, but animation's never been getting such a wide appreciation.
Yeah.
So hopefully that means we're going to get some proper Walt Disney animated shit.
I would like to see it.
I really don't know what this next one is. This might have been Vin Diesel getting drunk at an Oscar party. I really don't know.
I read this and I was like, Connor's going to be not happy about this.
Vin Diesel's claimed he's developing a Groot movie. Now, let me be clear. Marvel have not said at any point that this is in the works. And he said that he is developing this. That gives me the impression that he's decided he wants to make this film and he's writing a script to try and sell to Disney. Now, I have my feelings about Vin Diesel. I have my feelings about Groot. They are separate feelings. I love one, I hate the other. Not hate, dislike greatly. I don't see a world in which a Groot solo film works even a little bit.
I struggle to see, considering we know that Planet X was other megafauna beings not being good and being generally evil. I don't see Disney being okay with their fan favorite, cute, now turned older tree thing that goes, I am Groot all the time, being portrayed as from an evil race.
Yeah. And also, you either have no dialogue make any sense for the entire film, or you drop the entire I am Groot stick and destroy the character in public perception.
Well, yeah, the only way around it is you have to have supporting characters like Guardians does, which makes the I am Groot thing work because they essentially repeat what he said as an answer.
Yes. They give you the context you need.
The thing to add to this as well, because I've gone and found the Discussing Film tweet about it, the quote is, Disney wants their Planet X, which some say is Marvel's most anticipated movie.
Does this not sound like a quote he said while off his face on alcohol and maybe other things at an Oscars party?
Well, this just sounds like when people ask him about Fast and Furious, and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna make all the spin-offs. Like, this is the biggest franchise. Everybody wants spin." And like, it's just them chatting. Like, I think you're right. He's just got this idea of a film, gonna start writing it, gonna go to Disney and be like, "Look, I know you've been wanting this film. You've been wanting to do a group film. Here it is." And Kevin's gonna go,
Who let you in?
"What the fuck are you on about? Do you pay attention to what's going on with Marvel? We're soft resetting, mate. You're on the out."
You'll be lucky if you get to even re-record Iron Groot lines, you motherfucker. Go crush another car and pretend you're a superhuman.
We're Disney. We've got your voice on AI now if we really wanted to. Yeah, wild.
And finally,
Oh,
an Andor season 2 trailer.
and then it's another teaser, and like
We have never been so fucking back. Now, the way this works with me and you is we both love Star Wars. You've got the mystical side down to a T. That's your wheelhouse. You fucking adore that shit. I love the geopolitical bullshit of Star Wars. I nerd the fuck out over that. And unfortunately, right now, I think for the most part, my side of Star Wars is kicking your side's ass. Because Andor is some of the best TV Disney Plus has made, full stop.
I mean, Ahsoka. I've put Ahsoka at the same level. I know you put Andor above.
I don't think the average person enjoyed Ahsoka as much as Andor. But still,
I know what you mean.
regardless of that, Andor kicks ass. And we're getting ready for season 2. I do have my issues with the launch pattern, which we discussed last week, and this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, as long as they give me more rebellion shit, more fuck the people in power shit, and some more kick-ass like monologues that make me want to run through a brick wall and punch fascists in the face, I'm down. Because the world kind of needs it right now.
I think you're going to get all of those things.
So do I.
The recent teaser also had a bit of the like behind the scenes when they do discussions, TV spot style stuff. They mention one thing I picked out on the mention is like they said there is rebellion stories happening all around the galaxy, and we're seeing those perspectives. So that explains the like year jumps. It's obviously going to be like, oh, now this rebellion story happened. Time jump. This is now happening over here. How are all these things building up? The big one that people who, I didn't know this because it's Legend stuff. I don't really know the Legend stuff very much. There is a thing from in Legends and the books and stuff of the Gorman massacre. People have worked out from what has been shown in this teaser, we are going to get to see this. Now, in Legends, this is an event where stormtroopers slaughter peaceful protest as a display of power. Also in Legends, Tarkin lands his ship on top of the protesters and kills them. I don't know if we get to see that.
No, I don't think
it's Disney, but you never know.
But it's going to be their interpretation of the Gorman massacre, which is
we are
going to be
see
interesting.
Stormtroopers absolutely blitzing a crowd of protesters. Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited for this. It's going to be the visuals on these trailers are stunning. In this TV spot, they mentioned they went to X amount of location. Like these sets are on location. They're huge. Like
they look gorgeous. From someone like the BTS they used to show the scale of these sets. I mean, Andor season 1 was gorgeous, and it looks like they've stepped it up.
Oh yeah, I mean, all the outfit design and stuff as well looks incredible. Like, I
need it. I forget his name. Stellan Skarsgård? Is it Stellan? Is the dad?
I think
Stellan's... so. Yeah, I need another one of them speeches like I fight for a sunrise that I'll never get to see. I need Stellan Skarsgård to get... I need an episode of him giving a monologue like that in an armchair staring down the camera.
The sad thing is, right, this is the last season of Andor.
Yes, it is. But it's fine, because when this finishes, I'm going to go back and rewatch Rogue One and have a new love for it.
I just want Disney to go to the directors and the writers of this show and everyone that's made this look so beautiful and just be like, please start writing the next thing. We'll get whatever it is. Please, just more. We need something for these fans. Because it's going to be sad knowing that we're not going to get enough, like more of this. But
Do you know what I need? Idea for Disney.
Okay.
Suits, but Star Wars.
Suits, but Star Wars.
Make it happen. I'd much rather that than the fucking LA spin-off with that scab. So give me suits for Star Wars instead. That's what I want. That's basically what Obi-Wan and fucking Anakin were in episode 2 and the Clone Wars show.
Give us a bit
but yeah, that is all the news this week.
12 episodes of a Senate.
Yeah, man, let's do it. I'll inject it. Tap me up, baby. But that is it for this week. We'll be back next week with more Invincible, more Reacher, more Daredevil. No more Oscars, though. They're done for the year. Until next time. So, thank you as always. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you next week.